welcome to today's program of F-Gas COOP. We are still continuing our discussions on how best to promote cooperative practice. And today we have brought in an expert in cooperative. He is Mr. EFIOKE IBANGA, a cooperative professional, fellow of the Institute of Cooperative Professionals of Nigeria, and somebody who read Cooperative Economics and Management. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's a great privilege having you in our studio. Now, there is an important issue we would like to discuss. Many times, people hear about cooperatives in the rural areas, in towns, in offices. They hear about cooperative, and some of them engage in cooperative practices. What exactly is cooperative?
Thank you very much for the question, sir. I think cooperative has so many meanings, and some people decide to give their own meanings to it. Like I said much earlier, there are so many definitions to cooperative. Unfortunately, so many persons decided to also create definitions for themselves. Professionally, we have the definition for cooperative, which is generally accepted globally, and it is an autonomous association of persons united jointly and voluntarily to make sure they meet up their social, economic, and cultural needs through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. And this is a more professional definition that if you have to break it down, there are so many things that will be involved. But I want to make it more simpler for the understanding of our viewers. Cooperative is not adashi, it is not a so-so, it is not contribution, it is not a tebe, it is not any other thing except itself. And why I said this, there's this misconception that when you talk about cooperative, people's minds simply goes to these things I've mentioned, which is nothing. Like I said, they come with definition that is nothing to write home about when it comes to cooperative. A simpler definition for the understanding of our viewers will be cooperative can be described as a group of people who comes together, they have a common need, a common problem, a common interest, and they decide to find out how to ensure that this interest is not only settled for themselves, it will also bring economic returns to them. And that is why we defined it and say that it has a legal framework that guides the operation of the cooperatives. Unfortunately, you see these other groups, we call them the informal groups. They do not have legal backing. Like in the cooperative, you can sue and be sued. The cooperative can own properties, and it's also a limited liability organization, and it is an enterprise. Unlike these other groups I've mentioned, they are just self-help groups. So they don't have anything in common, except maybe the people who decide to come together. That could be said to be the common thing they have. But in terms of the practice, these are two different things altogether.
So thank you. You have already said so much about the practice. But now, how can one distinguish between cooperative and other business models? We have sole proprietorship, we have partnerships, we have corporations. So how do we distinguish specifically cooperatives from the rest of these ones?
Okay, like you have said, we have different forms of business organizations: the sole proprietorship, the partnership, the corporation, and the cooperative. Unfortunately, most cooperative books and management books and economic textbooks do not cover that. They simply make it look as though cooperative is also, or it should be a club or an association. So that is how we have them. And in one aspect, we will see that there are similarities in the area of formation. When it comes to formation of a cooperative, it is the management that deliberately and objectively creates that formation. Unlike these other groups, you find out either the directors or the owners of the business. If we talk about the informal groups like the social groups and association and clubs I've mentioned, you discovered it is about the age grade, who is the most senior person there. So the creation or the formation of that group is just centered around that person. So we talk about the issue of governance. In cooperative, we have laws, we have principles, we have values. These other organizations do not have. For instance, the director may decide in any of these other organizations to buy a share or to sell shares to people, the public. And there's also this provision, some of them is a selfish provision anyway, that they also have the right to go back and buy back the shares from these other persons. So in cooperative, what I'm trying to say, in cooperative, the issue of exploitation is not accepted. The issue of selfishness is not accepted. And when you look at it from the point of guiding the interests of the members, the cooperative has our set of laws, whereby fraud, exploitation, mention them unhealthy business practices is not being accepted, and conflict can be resolved amicably. Like I was talking about the conflict issue. In cooperative, there's this institutionalized mechanism where arbitration comes in, such that you don't need to go to the court. We don't need to quarrel and scatter the business, because the essence of coming together is to solve our socio-economic needs. So we handled it through the cooperative arbitration. And that is where I would suggest that our viewers should come into cooperative practice. Because the fear ordinary Nigerians or Africans will have is that, they will run away with my money. They are going to take over the property. They are going to do that. Little do they know that we have this mechanism in the practice, the cooperative arbitration, so that any kind of issue can be handled.
Okay, that is very interesting. What I have gathered from the discussions is that the aspect of safety of investments of members is settled in cooperatives.
Yes.
You know, the structure of cooperatives ensures that the funds and investments of members are secured. That is very interesting. Now we see a lot of people who move around, you know, as members of cooperatives, and sometimes we feel that they are not very clear about what cooperative business is all about. And today, let's take the advantage of your presence in the studio to get more clarifications on what the business of cooperatives should be. For instance, it is important that members should be very clear about what the business of cooperative is about. And let me ask, what kind of business are members of the cooperative expected to be involved in?
Thank you. Any business that is legitimate and is allowed within the cooperative practice is accepted.
Okay.
And it cut across every sector of the economy. And the only thing that differs is that each sector of the economy may have something unique, which another ministry may not have. But when it comes to the common practice of cooperative, it cut across all the sector of human endeavor.
Okay. Can you mention some specific areas of engagement, like can they do housing, can they do agriculture and things like that?
Definitely.
Types of cooperatives.
Like I said, it cut across all the sector of human endeavor, housing, cooperative. We will have cooperative in hospital, electricity, energy, communication, train services, airline. Think about so many things, as long as it's legitimate and is in line with the global cooperative best practice and principles. It is accepted.
Okay, that's good. Very interesting. I have had an experience during a program where some cooperative members were asking presenters, you know, what type of business they can do. What do you think is wrong with that type of question?
Very wrong indeed.
Okay.
Misconception. lack of cooperative knowledge.
Okay.
Because cooperative, like I said much earlier, is an enterprise. It's not a club, it's not an association.
Okay.
So if you come into what we will call an enterprise, you should have prepared your mind that you are coming to make money. You are coming to solve societal problem, and in return you make money. So such persons who ask that question, what will I do, is not ready for the business.
Okay.
And cannot be called a cooperative member. Because his or her own mentality is still looking at it from the point that he's a beggar. And I want to also use this opportunity to correct this misconception. Cooperative is not for the poor. It's not for the dropouts. It's not for those who have no future. It is a big, unique, and highly technical enterprise and body of knowledge. So that whoever wants to come into cooperative practice must know that he or she must undergo some training. You need to meet a professional who will guide you on what to do. You just don't sit down and assume that you could do anything. And I will quickly add to that, that is part of the problem we're having in Nigeria. Because almost everybody knows about cooperative. They very little understands what cooperative is.
Okay. Now, that is very interesting. Do you think that the problem of paucity of knowledge or information about what they should be doing may have been as a result of the fact that they were not properly organized to start with,
yes,
at the point of formation,
yes.
And whose responsibility is it to
yes,
organize them?
It should be for now, because of what we have in our Nigerian Cooperative Act, is the function of the registrars of cooperative or directors of cooperative, as the case is this day. Unfortunately, the scope has not been widened so that the private sector could come in and really do the job. So you discover that the job is too much for the government ministries.
Okay.
And the little they could do cannot be felt.
Okay.
Like the area you just asked about education, formation, because they need to have this, what we call this, we call a pre-member cooperative education.
Yes.
Mandatory cooperative education for new group of persons who wants to come into a cooperative. We need to bring you in, give you the orientation and let you know that cooperative is not a club. Cooperative differs from other business organizations, so that you know the differences between them. And you now agree that since I'm coming to cooperative, I'm going to run this business in line with the laws. But that has not been available, and I think, like I said, it's part of the problem. So there's more room for cooperative education.
Okay. Let me go back to the issue of what type of business they can do.
Yes.
I'm particularly interested in some of the businesses cooperatives in Nigeria should be able to do that they have not even ventured into. For instance, there is the aspect of sports and games, football club. We are yet to see any group engaged in that area. What prospects do you think that cooperative has in the area of sports engagement?
In fact, to start with, thank you for that question, because it's like you are even going far. We have not really started with the little ones. The prospects is endless. The little ones we have not started. But to answer your question directly, the prospect in the sports area in Nigeria is very high. Almost every young man belongs to one foreign club or the other, even though he or she may not know that these clubs are even cooperative-oriented clubs run by cooperative business model. Okay. But they are here in Nigeria telling you, look, Man U is my club, the coach shouldn't remove my best player. You are not a member of that cooperative group, yet you have your cooperative in Nigeria, you refuse to take advantage of it. For instance, we have the Barcelona Football Club. And I'll shock the world that it's one of the biggest cooperative football club on earth. Okay. That you were asking on sports.
Barcelona.
Football. Yes. I'm talking about football now. We have in other sports.
Yes.
I'm talking about Barcelona and football.
Yes.
And but Barcelona football began 1899. You can imagine till today, from one generation to another, they are buying shares in this company. They are growing. They are building their stadium, renovating, they have television, they have jersey companies, and then them, all for the benefit of the members. So that even those you see as fans, we will see them as fans here, they are the co-owners of the business. They are the shareholders of the cooperative business. So, like I said, Nigeria, we have not even gotten to that level. Let's talk about the little ones we can start from. But I know with time we can get there. If only government also will give that sector the due recognition and support.
That's very good. You know, that's very good. Let me, before you go, I will want to extract the reason you got into cooperative. Of all the courses, why did you choose cooperative? And would you suggest or recommend that course to anybody?
Yes, I will do that. I want to thank you for the opportunity once again to be here, because it's an opportunity to tell the world that we have not begun. Because the opportunities are so wide, and people need to realize first that cooperative is a business venture. It's an enterprise. It's gender friendly. It's democratically controlled. It is group oriented. It is surplus oriented, and so many reasons. So that if you see it this way, you will realize that what you've been thinking about it is far away from what the reality should be. And the question you asked was whether I would recommend people.
Yes.
In fact, I would want to recommend every young man, because if I talk about the old one, maybe because of their misconception from the past. Cooperative came into Nigeria in 1935. In 1936, we were able to have the first ordinance. And up till now, maybe those young men and women are now old men. It will be difficult to change their orientation. So that's why I would want to recommend every young man and woman to embrace cooperative. Because cooperative is the fastest growing form of business in the world. And this is running great economics of the world. Like from the statistics we have, Coop Monitor 2020, over 3 million members of cooperative are employed, not by government, by the cooperative. And over 10% of the population of the world is cooperative oriented, managed by the cooperative. And among the 300 largest cooperative in the world, from the Monitor statistics that we had, they generated over $2.14 billion US in only 2020. Is that not enough to encourage every young man and nations to embrace cooperative? For me, it's the best that can happen anyway. It cannot be compared with other forms of business organizations. And I encourage everyone and Nigerians and governments to recognize the power of cooperative and to use it to solve the problems we're having in Nigeria. And even in Nigeria alone, I know the cooperative is also contributing a higher GDP. It's only that there's not much statistics to show. But we know almost every local government, you will find a cooperative member, even though they may not know what global and modern cooperative should be. But with a program like this, we're able to nurture them, direct them, and also give a government the opportunity to tap into our wealth of knowledge so that we can make Nigeria great again.
Thank you, Mr. Ibanga, for coming and for the brilliant presentation. Viewers, until we meet again, God bless.